It's
on
now. Good morning. Good morning. We are live, Steph. We're on Wednesday Wisdom, and it's Women of Light. It's Elizabeth Eleanor. And this month, because we've just turned into March. Oh, my gosh. We're in March already, 23. And so this month, we're actually talking to Stephanie Pinto. So for a little while, we've been talking to Brenda Rogers, and I really love these deeper dives, like rather than just one person a week. This is really, really good.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And I think that allows you and your guest to actually get into some of that wisdom that you want them to be able to share, because doing a short conversation doesn't always get into that stuff. So this is really
absolutely cool. Yeah, absolutely. And so, Steph, because this is your first time, you just had some great news before you got on, so you're all wrapped. But let us know a little bit about you, so that we can then discuss how we're working for the month. We're going to be talking for a while, for a couple of weeks now, so for a few weeks. So tell us about you, Steph.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So it's 1st of March.
I know.
If I'm looking over here, it's because I have up the live feed on my phone. So I always like to be able to see if people are saying hello or anything.
Yeah.
So I am in Sydney, and I have 2 kids and my husband, and Elizabeth and I met probably 3 years. I feel like it's going to be 3 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Through a business mastermind course, and I have loved, I don't know, the first time I sort of saw you around, I thought, oh, there's something special about that lady.
Oh, thank you.
It sounds so silly, but I just I think I saw you on a panel actually at up at Brisbane, and I was like, ooh. So and you've helped me I know this is supposed to be about me, but you've helped me to sort of open up my world about the spiritual realm and myself, my inner spiritual wisdom and things like that. And I'm just so grateful, because I think I wouldn't be here in my personal or my business life if I hadn't sort of followed on your path and clicked onto your little carriage. I
love that. Clicked onto my little carriage.
So I'm a emotional intelligence parent coach and author and speaker. And so you can tell that's just all the stuff I love to talk about and to share about is emotional intelligence in the parenting context. I discovered it, just online about the workplace and adults and in teams and organizations. And at the time I was a pediatric speech pathologist. And I thought, why aren't we doing this for kids? Helping kids to understand and manage their emotions in the family and in school, at the younger age. Why are we waiting till, we're in our 30s and 40s and then it's coming up at work and we're being told, you need to work on emotional intelligence and stuff like that. So, so that's sort of a bit about me. I obviously work with kids, tends to be the parents of younger kids up to about 12, not so much the teenagers. However, I know there's a lot of parents, mums or, other people in this group who may have older kids, 20s or 30s, and I always say emotional intelligence is for anyone, any age, anywhere, in any job, doing anything, because that's what underpins relationships. And
absolutely. Yeah.
Stress and frustration and triggers and blocks and stuff come from what's happening in relationships when we're not getting what we want, or we're not where we want to be, or that person is triggering us. And I've, my husband and I, just every now and then, and even on the weekend, we talked about how emotional intelligence has completely changed our relationship, and we're much more patient and tolerant and understanding and empathetic of each other, whereas before we would have been like, why are you not doing this? And I've had to tell you about that, and you keep I keep reminding you, and it just, you have those moments where it's yuck.
Miscommunication, isn't it? Because you're coming, and I see it so often out there in the world, right? because you're coming from your own ability and level. And we're also conditioned to think me, that we often forget what is that other person experiencing and why, and you know, what are the conditions that they were raised in to give them that cultural background or that insight into the world, you know, like why is it different or whatever. And I can see that lean. I keep talking about it, but there's so much opening up for people at the moment to recognize that we're all individuals. We've got differences. We all have a heart, you know, like we all feel, we all hurt, you know, like, you know, we're doing the best we can. And to actually open up to, well, what's going on out there? And, you know, why is this person different to me, you know?
Yeah. And I love that you say all of that about, you know, the people in your group will know you've spoken about our childhood, our conditioning, you know, the stories we've been told or the messages we've received. Like the way I like to explain it to, let's say, mums when they are frustrated with their partner or their husband or whatever. And I've done it with my husband. You know, he's been more firm or rough or yelled at the kids. And I've been like, babe, like, come on, you know, they have a 5-year-old brain, or they're still learning, or, you know, they're wired to stuff up and make mistakes. Like, give them a break. But what I forget, and I have to remind myself still, is that me and my childhood and the parenting that I experienced over hundreds of thousands of experiences, like micro experiences, and the learning, like the fact that I was a pediatric therapist for 10 years. So I kind of get kids and I get how to connect with them and I get how to communicate with them. And I know most of the time what works and what doesn't, and what adds fuel to the fire and all of that stuff. Like I get that stuff. And then I've had the deep emotional intelligence training and the parent
on top of that.
And like all of these layers have led me to, bam, this is me today.
Yeah.
And these are the eyeballs through which I see my kids and their behavior and him and his behavior and my mother-in-law and my neighbors and everyone. So, yeah. And I think maybe I stole this off you. I can't remember. We can only see out of our own eyes. Like I'm actually the center of my universe.
Yes, absolutely.
but it takes, like, I have the maturity, the cognitive maturity to be able to like perspective take and put myself in someone else's brain and think, oh, I wouldn't say that because if that was said to me, that would hurt. So I'm not going to say it to you. Like we have that.
Yeah.
But for my husband, he had a completely different childhood. His parents are more like, they're European. They're a little bit more loud and explosive, and they say, you know, they don't hold back. So he experienced that for, I don't know, hundreds of thousands or millions of experiences and moments where he was told to get over it and what's your problem and what's wrong with you and like all that stuff. And then he hasn't done the training I've done, and he sees the kids and their behavior through a completely different lens. So why would he make any other decision to punish kids, or why would he not yell at them when they're being loud? Like that's what is done. That's what we do. And that keeps them in line to make sure they turn out good. Like, as you said, we're all doing the best we can with the knowledge that we have and based on our childhood and everything like that. So who am I to say, no, you should do this? And how come you didn't see? Don't you understand that this? Well, no, he doesn't. Because
no. And that takes the emotional maturity in itself, right? Like to actually be able to gain the knowledge to give someone else a break, you know, for behaving how they were completely conditioned. And on top of that, Steph, is not only in their family, but all the genetic information in their bloodline. You know, as you were saying that, I was remembering I've got a dear group of friends family up in Cairns that sort of were my surrogate family. And hung out with one or two of them at a time. But one day I was there when all the sisters were together and with the mum in the kitchen, and they're all Sicilian, right? And the Sicilian father's sitting in the lounge room. He was a lot older. Anyway, I'm trying to interact with like four women that all just like, and they're talking over each other, and I'm like, what is going on? You know, like, and I've tried to sort of interact, and then they'd include me, but it was just continuous like this. And I was there and I was getting a bit frazzled, and I looked over and Giacomo sort of looks at me and smiles and pats the lounge and says, come and sit over here with me. He could tell, you know, like I just was not used to it. And that was their life because that was the culture, right? So, and we're getting off topic, but it's so true, right? So let's bring that into, you know, when people are, well, it actually is not off topic because culture is part of it, isn't it, Steph? Like little kids that are, or little ones that are different to us. We were going to talk about all sorts of, you know, like labels that are around these days. But it's everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say it is everything. Let's start general. And I also did hook on to the word culture. When you said that, I was like, exactly. We all have a culture in our family, and this is related. I always speak about, and one of the big quotes I think in my book that's coming out in a couple of weeks is, if we want to raise emotionally intelligent kids, we must first become emotionally intelligent parents. So the work starts with us. And what we are doing, regardless of if we're intentional or not about it, is that we are and we have created a culture in our family. And so
absolutely,
that's the Sicilian or the Portuguese or the Asian, like whatever it is, but we create a culture of either we do talk about emotions and we help each other through it, and we're okay when blow-ups happen, and we work through and problem solve, or we have a culture of we do not talk about emotions. They are awkward, they are silly, they are messy, they are fluffy, they are childish. There is a kind of weakness. There's something to be swept under the rug and dealt with in your room, or something to be punished out of you because it's so bad or uncomfortable or embarrassing, and so on. You get the drift. So, you know, when we're parenting our children, no matter how old they are, we need to have that realization that, oh, I was raised in a certain culture in my family, and now I'm either with another person now, or had a child with another person who, even if they've come from down the road, like not even another country, they've still been like
different culture in this.
Still been like marinated in another culture.
Well, you've heard me say a number of times in my course, right? The child that grows up in a house full of thieves, the child that grows up and doesn't want to steal is the one that's condemned, right? The one that's punished.
Yes.
And it's the same thing.
Holy moly, I've forgotten about that quote. And as soon as you said the child who grew up in a family of thieves, I was like, oh my God, I need to write that one down.
Yeah.
Because it's so true.
It's a culture. Yeah.
It's a culture. So when we're looking at parenting different souls to us, which is I don't know, everyone, like we're not parenting. I had a conversation with a parent the other day. We're not parenting a carbon copy of ourselves. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Even if we say, oh, she's like a little version of me, and you know, I get that, you know, sometimes I think that with Eve, but they are, you know, they have the bloodline and the genetics, and they have this combination. It's like a soup that you just can't really see.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, how like children come out from the same, like my two brothers and I are completely different. My brothers are chalk and cheese from each other, and then I'm sort of like a combination of the two of them, but very, very different to the whole family. And, you know, like you then go, well, how did that happen? You know, where did I get because in my family's culture, we didn't talk about emotions. I was put in my room whenever there was arguments or whatever. And so I brought my children up to be expressive and emotionally intelligent and, you know, like, let's talk about this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, it was very different to the way I was brought up, you know.
Interesting that sometimes what I found with parents, and like speaking to a lot of parents, we either go one of two ways. We'll either repeat the cycles and repeat the loops and the patterns and things like that. And this is how my parents, oh, you know, I'm a shouty parent, my mum was, or dad. Or we do a complete 180 and we're like, I am being nothing like my parents.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually reading a book at the moment that my daughter got me onto called The Myth of Normal. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, Gabor Mate, yeah.
Oh, man. And one of the things that he says in an interview that I've on a podcast is that you're not parenting. You are, you know, each child gets a different parent, even if they live in the same house.
Yes.
Because even if they're twins.
Yes.
You know, like one comes out earlier and is a little bit more robust, and so the parent teaches, you know, or feels comfortable and confident. The other one's a little bit weaker and, you know, like needs some attention. And it's very interesting, isn't it?
So even think about, like, for the people who are watching, think about if you're, unless you're a single child, but if you're a one of two or three, or you're a twin, your parents were not the same people raising you as to when the next or the previous sibling was born. They had more or less knowledge and awareness and understanding about child development and babies and things. You know, they were different people. Different things would have happened in
different
their
age.
Life.
Yeah.
Or maybe they broke up with their partner. Like, we are not, even day to day, you know, we're not this, we're actually slightly different. We've changed, evolved and grown in some way. So, you know, for if we can reflect on that, I think as the child, it helps us as a parent to go, I am not, and I cannot aim to try and just parent my kids if I have more than one child. Parent them all the same, or I can't just always continue the parenting style that I've been doing or that I experienced, because my child or my children are individual sovereign beings with so many complexities, as were we as a child.
Yes.
Like you said, you know, even twins, one may be more robust and one may need more nurturing and support. And a beautiful, it's not really a quote, it's just like a saying is, fair is not always equal, meaning that if I treat my kids equally, that's unfair, because one may need more support and more nurturing and more guidance and
attention than the other. Yeah.
And the other one may thrive with a bit more hands-off. You've got this, like, go for it. I believe in you and you're ready, and give it a go, see what happens. You know, a bit of that more confidence in them doing things independently. So it's not fair to have things across the board equal. Like, I'm trying to explain that to my kids over the last kind of couple of years. They're different ages. They're 5 and 8. And, one of them gets to stay up a little bit later and the other one gets a bit longer of a tuck in, and the other one has a computer and the other one doesn't. And I'm like, guys, if I treated you exactly fairly, exactly equally, that actually wouldn't be fair. You'd have the same homework.
So good. That's that's wisdom in itself. Like, what a thing to teach your children at such a young age, because, you know, we're growing up, or they're growing up these days in a society where everyone wins a prize for racing. Well, why do you race? Like, just give us a prize at the end. Like, you know what I mean? There's no motivation to excel or and to see that there are differentiations within, within the community and support, I get the concept of it, but what do we, when we're talking about kids that are different, like, I don't know how many parents are on here, and I'd love for, if anyone's watching, throw in the comments if you would like to hear anything, because we're going to be doing a deep dive over the next month. But lately I've had a number of people, adults in my world, come back with, I've just been diagnosed with ADHD or with autism or whatever it might be. And, you see the what's the word for it? Like these are the attributes. That's not the right word, but the conditions. Characteristics, and you go, oh yeah, I'm that. Like, oh, maybe that's me as well, right? Yeah. And so it's really interesting, isn't it? Like, when you see yourself as being different as a child, and you get to an adult and you go, oh, well, maybe there is a reason that was the case. So what are your thoughts about parenting little souls that are different?
Oh my goodness. I've also had conversations with like a number of parents who have sometimes following their child's diagnosis of autism or ADHD, then thought, oh my God, I ticked some of those boxes that I saw my child, doing in the assessment. And they have followed that thread and also been diagnosed as autistic.
Yeah.
Or ADHD, actually, or both. So yeah. They can be comorbid. So it's something that I think we're seeing a lot more of. I used to work for about 7 years. I worked at Autism Spectrum Australia as a therapist, so that my whole caseload was autistic kids and teenagers and even adults. And so we're seeing sort of that shift, because not just because more kids, like it's happening more and there are more autistic kids, the diagnostic criteria has changed and sort of broadened. It's capturing more, I suppose, more people who in the past would have been missed, would have flown under the net or the radar sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And our information, our knowledge about the brain and development and MRIs and scans and stuff, in the last 20 years really has been available. So a couple of times as you were talking, the word acceptance just kind of dropped in to me. And what I urge or invite parents, I guess, to where to start with for their child, if you're noticing, wow, they're sometimes so challenging or so difficult to get along with, or to get them to cooperate, or to, they see things so differently and we clash, as we just were saying, every one of us is different and we are wired differently and we have been differently, and there's no carbon copy, like even with twins. And with the book, the myth of normal. Oh my God, what is normal? Like, we have again been conditioned to think the majority neurotypical people who fit in the box like you and I would, the majority is the normal. I'm not agreeing with this, by the way. The majority is normal, and the minority of, if you tick a box, if you get the diagnostic criteria, the label of autism or ADHD or other labels. We spoke the other day about, LGBTQI+, those populations, because for the minority, they're not normal. We are, and we need to give them therapy to be like us. I'm like, that was what I was doing like 10, 15 years ago as a therapist, getting autistic kids to be more normal and to stop their stimming or flapping behaviors that regulate them and comfort and calm them, to encourage them to give us more eye contact, because that's polite and respectful, when actually it's overwhelming and stressful and dysregulating for them to have to focus in someone's eyes. And they actually think better and connect better when they're able to look around. Like, just so many things that we have gotten wrong. At the time, like you also said, we're doing the best we can with the knowledge that we have. Now, when we know better, because a lot of the kids I treated or I worked with would now be in their 20s. now they have a voice because of the internet and because people are listening and because the world is shifting that way, and acceptance comes back to mind. Like, who are we to say the way your brain works is wrong?
Is not right. Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. And so isn't it interesting, because so that's the way there was it was used, as treated. What's going on now?
So now there's a huge push towards neurodivergent affirming practices, or neurodiverse affirming practices. So affirming, validating, and accepting the ways in which, if we just pick autistic people, the ways in which autistic people like to be treated, like to live their life, like to communicate, like to socially engage, their preferences, their sensory preferences. So we know that autistic people can tend to have different sensory preferences to us. Like, I've got these two really bright lights here. They would probably be overwhelmingly bright for some, not all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to sweep a brush, but I can deal with those. And there's cicadas bloody outside, and and there might be the air conditioner on. So for some autistic people, adults and kids, like, think about kids in a classroom when there's 20.
Oh my gosh.
Kids,
yeah.
There's the noise, and someone's tapping their pencil, and someone's making silly noises, and the fans are whirring, and there's distracting outside. And then we wonder why those kids are maybe disruptive or challenging or not cooperative, or they're melting down, or they're absconding from the classroom. So it's about accepting, affirming, and trying to support that person to get their needs, like get their goals met. Like, what do you want to do, and how do you want to be, and what's important for you? It's not all, okay, well, we're going to make some goals on an IEP, which is an individual education plan, and we're going to try and get you to, like, I remember having goals of increasing eye contact, improving social conversation skills with other neurotypical kids. Like, you have to be able to ask them what they're interested in, and look at them and ask them questions, and have 5 turns in a conversation. Like,
wow. Yeah. But that was, and that was even more. That was a broader, more. What's the word for it? That was from what the 60s and 70s were, right, where it was like none of this was even recognized, right? Like, my brother was hyperactive. That's what they, back in the day. And I don't think there was anything to support him or my mum at the time, and he was the first of her children. And so, yeah, I think looking back for her, it would have been really challenging dealing with him. And then 18 months, or actually it was less than that, then having another child. So, yeah, it was it's an interesting, the way we've developed our skills and understood, and, and how, what do you know is happening now? So now it's more acceptance and education of the community as well, right?
Yeah. Inclusive practices, ideally, if we talk about in schools and stuff like that, but also in homes. Like, can we be inclusive and accepting of our child who likes things a certain way and can't deal with things in that way, instead of being like, what's the big deal out of this? Or, come on, it's just a fan, or we're hot in here, like we need it on, or, just eat it. It's not spicy, eat it, or it's not itchy, wear it. Like, that's not, like, that triggers you, or that's too much for you, or you can't handle that, or, I don't like spicy food. My husband doesn't force me to eat it. So if we can say, oh, that's how you are wired, for want of a better, that's what your nervous system and your brain and your body likes and needs, and that's what they can't handle, that's what is too much, then we go, okay, let's work around that, and how do we problem solve then when I want, I don't know, the aircon on and you can't handle it, or just
I know those moments myself. So we'll leave it there because I just saw that it's 8:30 and I know we've got to be on the dot because you're a different guest because you've got kids that are going to school. And I definitely would encourage anyone that's watching to go in and friend you, Stephanie, because I was looking at just one of the last posts. I don't know if it was the last post where you took your daughter on the bike to school.
Yeah.
And I loved the post. I actually didn't get to finish it because something happened, but I want to go back to it because I love how if she was an adult, would I be, would everyone be shunning me because I'm giving into her? It's actually called kindness. I'm like, so true. So let's leave it there, and we'll actually because I know that all of these topics that we're going to be talking about are going to sort of meld in with each other anyway. So we'll discuss more next Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And if anyone's got any questions or definitely wants to jump in and check out Stephanie's Facebook group, which is Emotionally Intelligent Parenting.
Yeah, it's called Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids. So you can jump.
That's right.
And join. And we post a bunch of times, like 3 times a day. Lots of interaction, and parents are asking questions about helping with their parenting or their kids and stuff. So at any age. Yeah, that's awesome. And we will talk about your book coming out as well. Yes, a couple of weeks. That's exciting. Yeah, awesome. Well, take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will catch up soon.